Welcome to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks, where women share their dreams, struggles, and successes. How they were able to persevere despite the fear and create the life they want and deserve. If you're looking for inspiration to move you past where you normally would stop, then this is the show for you. Here's your host, Melissa Banks.
Welcome to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. I'm excited you chose to be with us today. I'm your host, Melissa Banks. Today, we have another amazing woman to share her journey with us and how she was able to keep going despite the circumstances. Our guest today is Jennifer Ward. When female entrepreneurs want to develop a strong brand presence, create game-changing strategies, and take their business to the next level, they contact Jennifer Ward with J. Ward Design Studio. Jennifer has over 15 years of design experience. Couple that with brand development and strategy, you're surely to be set up for success. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here today.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
And we're excited to have you. Jen, let's just start at the beginning. I know at the beginning of your career, you created luxury designs for some amazing, stationery designs for some amazing events. Tell us how you got started in that and why you started your business doing that.
It is so interesting that you asked that, Melissa, because I actually started stationery design through an opportunity that was presented to me through a classmate. So I was celebrating my 10-year high school reunion, and a classmate had lost her uncle. And she asked me if I would be willing to design the obituary. And oftentimes I say through death, birth the life of my business. And so I did the obituary for my classmate, and it was just something. I've always had an art background. I've always drawn. I've been very creative just in general. And so I took that opportunity. It just kind of sparked something in me. And I decided, I was like, wow, I would really love to do stationery. It started out as doing like birthday and baby shower invitations, small things. And some kind of way, there was a lady by the name of Jackie Andrews. She contacted me and said that she wanted me to participate in the Mississippi Bridal Expo, and that she wanted me to do wedding stationery. I was like, well, wait, no, I don't do wedding stationery. And she was like, yeah, you do. And I was like, okay. So I was open to the idea of it. I did a wedding, the wedding expo with not one wedding stationery design at my booth that year. That first year, it was like 2009. And something kind of sparked something in me. I was like, you know what, I may have something here. And that is what pretty much birthed J. Ward Design Studio. And so we did start off doing wedding stationery. The first year, again, I'd had no wedding stationery design. But the following year, I just went all out. And it really kind of spearheaded something great in the wedding and event industry.
You know, Jennifer, what I hear when you were talking, and I was getting excited to hear your story and hear how, you know, I believe that God plants seeds along the way to get us to where we're supposed to be. And our job is to be obedient and to follow that murmuring that he gives us. So you started out not really wanting or thinking about a stationery business. An opportunity that may have appeared to be a small opportunity at the time came to you and spurred something in you that led to something else. And then that led to something else. You know, I have a history with Mississippi Bridal Association, and that's a long story, but that is an amazing way to just show our audience how following God's lead and being obedient can take you from one step to the next step. Okay, so after being in business for a while, you noticed that there was a need. You've gotten really good at the stationery and doing some things with clients in that direction. But then you noticed that there was a need that needed to be filled and that you could fill that need. Talk to it to take them beyond the stationery. Talk to us a little bit about where you took your business when you noticed there was a need.
Well, I actually I worked with some amazing local wedding and event vendors. I call them my frienders. Amazing women in the industry who were producing some top level quality events. And the thing that I noticed was that their marketing materials, their brand was not reflective of the caliber of work that they were doing. And so around, I guess I would say around 2016, 2017, I had decided to take a pivot in my business, and I really wanted to start helping the businesses that I collaborated with to do to produce the events. I would oftentimes be the behind the scenes person doing the stationery, and they were planning or photographing or catering for these events. And so I was like, you know what? I would like to help your business because you have something amazing, and people oftentimes, we're visual. As humans, we're visual. And I felt like they were not able to necessarily shine the way that they could. They were not able to attract the caliber of client that they were, I don't want to use the word deserving of, but the one client that was aligned with the caliber of work that they were doing. And so at that time, I started then offering logo designs, business cards designs, and then that kind of evolved even more into the deeper meaning behind the logo design, which was the actual, like, the brand development, just really helping these businesses align from a strategic standpoint with who it is that who they were best suited to serve in their industry.
Wow, that's awesome, because what you did was you looked within what you were already doing, and you were paying attention. So it wasn't just about creating a stationery and handing it off and then not connecting with the client, but you were connecting with your client. And to me, that makes a difference in your business and your client relationship. So in order to even recognize that there was a need, you had to have a connection with the people you were working for, and then you wanted to fill that need. Okay, so what challenges have you faced in your business, and how were you able to overcome them?
Oh, wow. I would say it predates even being in business. I oftentimes refer to myself as a recovering perfectionist. I now know that what is seen as sometimes a hindrance, me being a perfectionist, is if you look at it through a different lens, it's my eye for detail. And I don't shy away from that. But going back, living in this people-pleasing perfectionist space, I found myself kind of being pulled here, there, and everywhere, which in hindsight was not necessarily a bad thing. In the midst of it, I felt like I was not, I didn't have any structure. That's kind of how I felt. But what that did was it lended to different experiences that I'm now able to pull from where I am now in my business. But in 2016, I was diagnosed with general anxiety and depression, and that was something that really, I think I've been dealing with it from a high-functioning standpoint for a very long time, but I was clinically diagnosed, and I had to do a little time on my medication, and I'd done some therapy, which I'm not ashamed or afraid to speak about that, but it did definitely affect how I was able to do business, because a lot of times we see, especially now, with the surge of social media marketing and online marketing, you have this pressure to always be on. And I'm an introvert, and I tend to do things a little more methodically. I'm a little more intentional. I'm a little slower to do things. And so trying to be what I saw everyone else be around me, showing up all the time and being on all the time, it was quite detrimental to my mental space, my mental health. And so I had to take a step back a couple of years ago and really kind of reassess what worked best for me and my business. And so I would like to say that probably was the biggest struggle, just learning how to move through online space, move through business in general, being confident in who I am and how I work, being okay with the idea that the way I work may not necessarily work for a particular business owner, but also knowing that there is a business owner, and there have been business owners that completely gel with the way I do things, and it's just a matter of me aligning with that particular type of business and not trying to be for everyone. So I think that probably through discovering and being diagnosed and having to really step back and assess myself and be true to myself, let me know that, hey, the way that you do it is completely okay.
And you know what, Jan, that is so important. And several things that you said just then, what's important for our listeners to catch is that, no, it's not all roses every day, and everything you try doesn't work. And the biggest challenge is accepting that I can do my best, and some people are for me, and some people are my client, and then some people are not, and that's okay. And then you had a really big challenge with the diagnosis, and instead of letting that stop you, you got the help that you need, which is so challenging for so many of us to say, you know what, I really need some help to work through this. But you got the help that you need, and you continue to push through that. You didn't sit down and say, you know what, I got this problem, so I can't do it. I don't have to stop right here. So that says a lot about you. If you're just joining us and you're listening to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks, and today our guest is Jennifer Ward with J. Ward Design Studio. Okay, Jen, just got through with 2020, and everybody knows that 2020 was just with some ups and some downs in 2020. 2020 hit us all in so many different ways. Was your business impacted by COVID-19? And if so, how were you able to make the changes or the pivots necessary to keep pushing forward?
Actually, it did not in the way that you would think. It affected me on a personal level, but my business, because everyone was so almost forced to be creative in making ends meet, it brought about new businesses. People who otherwise would not have started a business have found themselves reaching into their own creativity and jump-starting their own business, which, of course, with them starting businesses, they're needing assistance and help in branding themselves or their new business. So from that standpoint, business-wise, it did not. But what I did was I intentionally kind of scaled back a bit just so that I could make sure, because things were shifting and changing, I had to make sure that I was in the right headspace to be able to show up for my clients the way that I needed to. And so I really started at that point last year, probably around April. I started a podcast. It's called The Transparent Butterfly, where I just discuss my mental wellness journey. And I found that through the podcast, through my transparent moments that I would post on Facebook, it really resonated with people who are going through those different changes, not only in 2020, but lifelong issues that sometimes you feel like you're alone, and it sometimes takes a person to say, hey, I went through this, and this is how I was able to cope, for people to feel like they weren't alone. So I did do like a slight little pivot and incorporated that into the way that I do my branding services for my clients now. So I guess the long and short of it is yes and no. I purposely kind of pulled back some to reassess some things, but it didn't necessarily slow me down.
Well, for me, 2020 brought about some changes in my business. And, of course, I'm in the event industry, so it did impact the business in some ways negatively. But I get what you're saying, because in other ways I was able to explore different things that I would never have explored had it not been for that situation. So one of the things you went into was really my next question. I was going to talk to you about the transparent butterfly, which I absolutely love the name of your podcast. So it became really important to you to just dig down deep in yourself and get honest with yourself and your feelings and what you were really going through, and then sharing that experience with your audience. So tell us a little bit about why that was important to you to just go deep and then share it so people can hear what you were feeling and what you were going through as well.
Transparent, but the transparent butterfly kind of spearheaded from my transparent moments. I think my first quote unquote transparent moment was maybe like back in 2017. I've always been kind of known to, well, when I was younger, I was considered an old soul, but now I'm older, so I don't quite know how that factors in. But I have always kind of been known for having a certain voice of wisdom. And a lot of times we tend to take to social media to vent. And that was something that I would do, but in the midst of doing that, I was like, how is this helpful to just get on here and just vent? And I'd have to pull back even in that particular post and go, okay, wait a minute, let's look at, what I was feeling before, and then what lesson I'm learning in how I'm feeling. Because I always feel like there are no losses, only lessons. So I would try to pull from that. And from there, the transparent moments, I'm chatty and a bit wordy. And I noticed that my posts were, like, really long. And so I was like, you know what, maybe I could just talk, because I could talk all day, and just kind of turn this into, like, a podcast-type platform where I could talk for a few minutes. It's easy to digest. It doesn't last too long, and it's not too wordy for you to have to read, and I could still get the same message across. So that was important to me, to just make it to where it was more digestible. But I think it's really important for us to really dig deep, because there are so many of us who are going through things. We don't quite understand why we're going through them. We just assume that that's just how I am. But a lot of us are dealing with a lot of hurt and trauma. We're living in a lot of fear. And I really wanted to speak to that, because through my own journey, I realized through perfectionism and people pleasing and all of those things that I really was not being my true authentic self. And I was putting on, just to be accepted. And I was like, maybe if I share the things that I'm learning through my journey, it'll help other people along their journey as well. Or it'll help them to even be able to recognize that they have something going on, because sometimes we're so close to the situation that we don't even realize that we have an issue. We, have continued failed relationships and different things like that. And we don't recognize that, hey, this is something that I can work on. Absolutely. And that's why it caught my attention when you first started it, is because now I'm one of those people that if the post is too long, I probably won't finish reading it. But once you put those words where I could actually listen to it and feel what you were going through, because sometimes we as business women, we do feel like we have to project a perfect persona to the people that see us, that everything is perfect. But you know what helps us most, help ourselves and other people, is to hear that, it really wasn't so perfect, and I didn't feel so great about it, and this is the space I'm in, but I'm moving on. I'm acknowledging that, and I'm moving to the next thing. Okay, so on your social media, Jen, I saw a quote that you posted from Whitney Houston, and you said, sometimes you laugh, sometimes you cry. Life never tells us the whens or the why. But when you have friends to wish you well, you find a point when you will exhale.
Share with our audience what this quote meant to you at the time and what it means to you now.
Oh, my gosh. I am such a huge, anybody that knows me knows I'm a huge Whitney Houston fan. And the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack is by far, hands down, my favorite, movie soundtrack. It is the best. And I listened to it, as a teenager, just because I love music as a creative person. I sang in my former life, and I just loved it. But I heard it, the words here recently, and it just resonated with me in such a way, not knowing, what can happen from moment to moment. There's so much that goes on in our lives, and sometimes we don't think that we can see the sky for the clouds or the forest for the trees. We're so in the thick of it. But sometimes when we have just an ear, or even within ourselves, a certain mindfulness or a certain gratitude that we're able to tap into, it gives us a sense of solace, a resolve, I guess you could say. The friend within myself, my external friends, because that's something that I really had to learn about, was really just being a friend to myself. And knowing that, hey, if I make space for myself, then, yeah, I can breathe. And in doing that, I will attract friends and others that will allow me the space to breathe and to just be as well.
Even every time I read that, and by reading it out loud, it made me want to, by the time I got to the end of it, it just made me want to just exhale and feel better about me. And so that was very helpful to me. So, Jan, I know you wear a lot of hats. You a mother, you a wife, and you're an entrepreneur, and your business is based out of your home. So you have to do a lot of managing of work and of what they need and what you need. So what are some things that you do to just kind of encourage yourself?
I have established a morning routine. And I can tell you without pause that if I do not fall into this routine, I can definitely notice a difference. But I get up every morning and I find space. I have a little teeny tiny walk-in closet in my husband's office, and I sit in there and I meditate and I journal and I just sit with myself. I really begin to practice the practice of being present, being mindful. So I take some time every morning. I wake up very, very early, which I'm a morning person, so it's not too tough, but it's earlier than me as a morning person would get up. But I just have that time to myself, and if I can get that time to myself, once everybody else wakes up and gets going, I'm more planted, I'm more grounded, I'm able to navigate through the day better. And that is just something that has really been a life changer for me, just being able to sit and meditate and have that time, that quiet time, deep breathing, just really having that moment to myself. And as long as I have that, then the day goes well. And some days it gets a little bit hectic, and I have to kind of take a beeline in here in the middle of the day for about 5 minutes, just deep breathing. It helps me to just recenter myself. So that's been extremely helpful.
Oh, that's awesome, Jan. So, Jan, what advice would you give to another female aspiring to start a business similar to the one that you have yourself?
Just know that there are no losses, only lessons. If you can take a moment to look at what you can learn in any experience, then you won't repeat it as often. And understand that lessons are, just like in life, they're a part of business as well. That's probably like the biggest thing, that word of advice that I could offer. Just know that there are no losses, only lessons. And
that is huge. I saw something on your social media that you you wrote, and you said sometimes you have to let go of what isn't working in order to have space for what works. What do you mean by that?
Sometimes we hold on to things that because we want it, not necessarily because it's best for us. We can have a certain thing, and I am very guilty of this. We have this thing in our mind, the way that we see things being, and when it's not becoming that way, we're trying to force it, almost like trying to force a round peg into a square shape or whatever. And so sometimes we have to understand, oftentimes we hear don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. But sometimes we have to recognize that, hey, I'm trying to force a situation that maybe just should not be. And when we release that thing, if it's meant for us, it will stick around. It will, or it'll come back to us. But I think sometimes we're holding on to things so tight that we're missing all of the blessings that we could be partaking in because we're trying so hard to make it what we see. And my best friend said that, we can make there's a whole world that can be made from things that we don't know. And so sometimes if we just release our vantage point, our way of thinking about something, and just kind of open ourselves up to new possibilities, it's amazing. There's no telling what we can accomplish by doing that. But if we just let go sometimes and let God, then we'll really be able to settle into things in ways that we couldn't even imagine.
Jen, that was one of the biggest lessons I learned in 2020 is when I changed my mindset, I looked at my business and I had to determine what was working. What did I need to hold on to in the pivot, and what did I need to just let go so that I can move forward? So I definitely understand that. Thank you so much, Jen, for this conversation. You have helped me and so many other women that would be listening to this broadcast. Before we let you go, though, I wanted to make sure that you gave our audience how to stay connected to you.
Okay, you can follow me on Facebook. I have J Ward, just J Ward, and then I have The Transparent Butterfly also. They're both on Facebook, and they're also on Instagram. So for Instagram, it would be @_J Ward Design, and then The Transparent Butterfly. And then you can also find me online at jwarddesignstudio.com.
Again, thank you so much, Jennifer, for being our guest today. And thank you to our audience for tuning in to today's edition of Dream by Design. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, saying all your dreams are possible. Believe in yourself, work hard, and don't quit. Until next time, thank you for choosing Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. Enjoy your day.